Peter Barrett is back joining me, talking to me about his upcoming fight. Finally has his UFC debut booked again. Seems like it's going to happen, man. How you doing?
I am over the fucking moon. I am excited.
There you go. And the last time we spoke was when this pandemic first started, and the UFC had just announced that they were going to start holding events again. At the time, you kind of voiced to me some concerns that you had about fighting during the pandemic and how you weren't really comfortable with it. And I thought it was one of the better interviews. I talked to a lot of different fighters over that period of time, and I felt like you're very honest with me, and you kind of showed both sides of your mental conflict about this whole thing. So how did you end up making out throughout this whole thing? And I'm assuming you obviously feel a little more comfortable with what's going on now, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, once we got an idea, what really changed was, when everybody had an idea of what was going on, and it wasn't just, expect the worst, prepare for the worst, because that's kind of the mentality that you had to go into it with, especially considering I live with a nurse who works in one of the hotspot hospitals in Boston, and was in the thick of it every day. So on top of the social distancing and all that jazz, I also had to self-quarantine voluntarily, involuntarily, however you want to call it. But we just had to make sure that we weren't going to get anyone else sick, and we weren't going to spread this to someone's family or someone's home. So once things started calming down at the hospital, and they started gearing back up to get back to regular due process and focusing on her normal responsibilities at the hospital, we were able to come up with a safe protocol, things that I need to do when I come back into the house, make sure the clothes that bathing, showering, keeping everything clean, anything dirty goes into the washing machine right away, just to minimize any sort of transfer of anything. So once we had a better understanding that young people weren't really being affected, people with compromised immune systems were really the ones to worry about, when all of that unfolded, I started getting back into some small group training with some of my buddies or training partners, and it was like a slow progression to get back into full-time training, and it was really just trying to do it the right way, not to rush it, make sure we're covering all of our bases. It was just the idea that I could get someone's family member sick and they could die from the idea was just too much and too selfish of me to put that on someone else. So when we got, like I said, I keep repeating this, when we had a better understanding of what we were dealing with, that's when we could make educated decisions on how to get back into training and to get ready to fight.
For sure, man. And, I live in Massachusetts. I'm here in Somerville, which you're well acquainted with, and definitely turned a corner in our state. And it seems like, I totally get where you're coming from there. But, now that you've got it booked and you have the date and you have the opponent, is it nice not to have to wait around to get booked for once? I mean, it took a while for you to get that Lincoln, Nebraska fight booked that never happened. And now here you are. And it seems like the UFC got you what you wanted right away.
Yeah. I was really looking forward to the Steve Garcia matchup. Now we have Youssef Zalal. If I butchered his name, I apologize, buddy. But one thing I noticed when the events started going on, and I've been very honest with you about things in the past. The monster that I created in my head was much worse than what was really happening. In my head, whoever I was fighting was going to have his entire team in his house, in his living room, training every day, small group training sessions, doing this, doing that, doing the next thing. Because, if I didn't live with a first responder, I'm a skeptic. I have a tinfoil hat. I don't believe shit from the government. I know that everything's been politicized. And that was what my gut was telling me from the get-go. But to be, I had to wait and see, and then when we started to see things play out, when I started to see how other guys were showing up to fight, I realized that a lot of guys were showing up on weight, but not a lot of guys were showing up in shape. And it kind of gave me an idea that, everybody else is really going through the same shit that I'm going through. So if they're getting paid, I might as well get paid. If I can bonus, let's get in there and knock someone's head off. Like, let's go in there and put on a show. you're not going to find a bigger heart than mine. You're not going to find a grittier guy than me. I'll get in there. I'll make it dirty. I'll do whatever I have to do to win. Not dirty as in violating rules or anything like that, but like, let's make it an ugly, gruesome, nasty, bloody fight, and I'll shine. You know, the uglier the fight gets, the better I get. So, you know, I have no shame in saying I kind of mentally broke with that last camp, you know, and then seeing people, and I've said this before in other interviews, but seeing people like Calvin pull it together and become a better, stronger fighter throughout this really gave me the inspiration to refocus my mind, focus on what I can control, say fuck off to the rest of the stuff, and just focus on what I can control and produce the best possible version of me to show up on fight night.
That's an awesome way to put it. And did the opponent switch up throw you off at all? You know, obviously UFC debut, you're planning for this one guy, and then all of a sudden, you know, a couple weeks before the fight, boom, here's somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, so Henry was an orthodox striker. Garcia was a southpaw striker. And now we're here with Zalal, and he's another orthodox striker. So we went from, you know, aggressive, semi-aggressive, back to a really aggressive opponent. So I'm not really changing any game plans. It's just a stylistic change. You know, I told all the southpaws that have been coming in to train with me to kick rocks, and I brought in a bunch of ortho guys for the last 2 weeks to really focus on getting back to fighting a right-handed fighter. That being said, I do know Zalal, you know, he tends to switch stances, so I did keep a couple of the guys with me just to get that Southie look. But I mean, it's business as usual. I did think it was a little convenient that Garcia pulled out 2 weeks before the fight, having missed weight 2 of his last 3 fights, and his manager just so happened to have this kid ready and willing and able to make weight on 2 weeks' notice. So without getting into too much detail there, like maybe it was a chess move behind the scenes, who knows, but I don't think Garcia was going to be able to show up and make weight, so maybe he pulled some injury to get out of it. You know, I don't like, you see the UFC cut guys even if they're winning and they're missing weight, so I don't think he wanted to show up after having missed weight at the Contender, missing weight at LFA, bumping up to 155 to fight the Violent Bob Ross, and then come back down to 145 and miss weight again. So however it worked out, however it may be, you know, everything happens for a reason. This is the opponent. It's a better win on paper. Zalal is 2-0 in the UFC. Garcia was 0-1. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a step up in competition, and it's a better win on my record, and it's a better head to have in my bag at the end of the day.
Yeah, totally, man. And you know, you look at the UFC's the newcomers this year, and I think he's 2-0 already. I know a lot of the other fighters haven't got the opportunity to compete as much, but you know, he's on track to be one of the guys at the end of the year that people say, hey, this is, you know, a really good fresh face for the division, and you have the opportunity to kind of go out there and not steal his thunder. I'm not saying it like that, but build momentum for yourself, build off of that. So I guess from your perspective, what are fans going to see out of you for your first impression in the UFC when you guys step in the cage?
Man, I'm looking to bring a very violent Muay Thai game. I know he's a striker. I know he trains out of a Muay Thai gym in Colorado as well. Come to find out, we have mutual friends. I used to live in Denver. I went to college in Denver. I started my MMA journey in Denver. So for me, it's like it's this opportunity from a psychological perspective to kill the boy that used to live inside of me and embrace the man. You know, 10 years ago, I was living in Denver doing my thing, and now I have an opportunity to come back, you know, and abstractly like embrace who I've become and have an opportunity to slay who I was. So on many levels, this is a great fight for me, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Last question for me. When you play it out in your head, how do you get it done?
I'm taking his head off. You know, I said it before with Sang Hun Yu, like I'm ready to put this kid's head in Dana White's lap. I'm here to make an impression. The fans are definitely in for they're definitely getting a firefight that night. They're getting a good show. They're getting their money's worth. You know, whether it's on ESPN or ESPN Plus, who knows where the fight's going to fall now with the opponent change. But it's going to be an ugly, bloody, disgusting, savage display of some highly calculated violence.
Hey, man, I'm always in for a good dose of violence. So appreciate the time, Peter. Good luck in the fight, and I'm sure we'll be talking again in the future, man.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.